Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 knockdown rule on Triller is in effect. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mandalay Mario Lopez. Big pay-per-view show this weekend.
Yes, big weekend in general. Nice baseball shirt too, my friend. Got to get hooked up one of these days. Shout out quick, Smoking Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles,
and
Tino
on the edits. We got a lot to talk about. Let's jump ahead. Saturday night from the Mandalay Bay, where the Flying Fishes play in Las Vegas on Fox pay-per-view. It's the return of Keith one-time Thurman taking on Mario Barrios. Mario, here's the most cynical view of this matchup, because we like to be factual here. Keith Thurman, very good fighter, only has 1 loss, but he has not fought since 2019, his loss to Manny Pacquiao, what was his last professional victory. And as it relates to Mario Barrios moving up in weight, his last bout, he was knocked out at 140 last year by Tank Davis. What's the appeal of this matchup?
Honestly, I think it's insulting to
wow.
charge for it. I'm being quite honest.
Not
to discredit the fighters, but exactly like you said, Thurman's been out of it for 3 years. Barrios is moving up, coming off the heels of getting knocked out. I feel like you're insulting the audience by asking them to pay $75. Come on, man. This is the type of fight that PBC sort of owes the boxing public, and that should be on Fox or CBS or name that outlet. But you shouldn't charge for this. If you're paying for this, I'm not trying to discourage people to pay for this. And again, with all due respect to the fighters themselves, I know it's not them. But I just off a principle, doesn't matter if you can afford it or not, off a principle, I feel like I'm getting hustled. You know, when I go through the drive-thru and my Chick-fil-A costs whatever, $6-7, whatever it is, right? And I don't get my 78 cents back that they sort of gypped me. It's not about do I need that 78 cents? It's about the fact that I don't like getting gypped. It's just off of principle. I don't like getting ripped off of anything. It's the worst feeling in the world to get at. I think that's just me. Maybe that's just personally me. And this is it to a larger degree. I just feel embarrassed that they're asking the people to pay for this. Am I wrong?
Good Lord. I don't know if my partner is Mario Lopez or Jack Benny. You're throwing over about pennies here and nickels like manhole covers. Folks.
It's off of principle, Kim. It's not about, I just said it's not about the money itself, and it's not, and considering the circumstances and the fighters where they're at in their lives, again, not to discredit the fighters, the PBC I'm more upset about. It has nothing to do with the fighters.
Our fine fans, we are going to set up a GoFundMe campaign for Mario Lopez to
you ignored everything I said. You ignored everything I said. If you had any sort of principle, you would understand what I'm saying.
No, but in all seriousness, the PBC, when they came out in 2015, what was their tagline? Free boxing for all. There are literally videos and sound bites of Keith Thurman saying, I don't want to be on pay-per-view. I want everyone to be able to watch me for, free. No longer, huh? What happened to that?
Was it ever? Really?
No, for a while, in their first 2-3 years, from 2015 all the way to about 2018, most of their fare was on either Showtime, which isn't free, but it's premium cable.
It wasn't pay-per-view.
But it wasn't pay-per-view.
Right.
It was on Fox. It was on NBC with the time by CBS, but that is no longer the case.
I just don't know how they're justifying this. I don't think it's good for the sport, and I'll be shocked if it does any sort of business.
The word is dilution. There used to be a time when we grew up, Mario, in the 80s, 90s, even throughout the 2000s, when those 3 words, pay per view, were attached to event. It really meant like, wow, special. Big night.
Right.
Honey, don't make plans with the in-laws. Circle the red ink with the calendar.
Yeah.
Now it's just like, geez, really?
So let me give you another example real quick, okay? I went to dinner the other night,
He's doing the analogies today.
No, these analogies, because these are mine. So I went to dinner. Tell me if this is fair. You could chime in too, Frazier. There was a gift card that I was given. $500, right? For a nice dinner, right? So just my wife and I figured, okay, we'll go. We'll dip into it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll go again. Maybe 2-3 more times, right? No. According to that restaurant, you have to use it all in one sitting.
What?
I go, what? That's not fair.
How does that make sense?
Thank you. That doesn't make sense, right?
That's completely stupid.
And they didn't tell me until I got there. So you know what I did? I bought a bunch of wine from the place to take it to go, and I made a stink about it. And again, it's just the principle. You paid for that. You should be able to get that amount of money, or that about a meal for that money. So they didn't. You have to shoot it in one wad.
Was it a gift card or was it a gift certificate?
I'm not really sure because they called in. Why is there a difference?
Well, if it's like certificates, you can't like do an electronic kind of thing with it. But if it's a gift card, then they could do it that way. I could understand a certificate because it's only one piece of paper.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. But even if it is a certificate, they should have some sort of credit. I feel if you pay $500, you should have $500 worth of meal. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, this was just another example. It's just about principle, Kim. And I feel just off of principle.
I'm with you on that one.
You know what I mean? Okay, you're with me on that one.
Yeah, as Jimmy Johnson used to tell the Miami Hurricanes about their scholarships being renewed or not, read the fine print.
Exactly.
Now, as for the fight itself, Keith Thurman is the natural welterweight. Barrios just got knocked out at 140. Maybe he was training to make 40. I don't know.
Kid, maybe.
I think there's ring rust involved, but when it's all said and done, Thurman is the A side. He's been one of the PBC signature fighters. I don't think they would have made this fight if they really thought Barrios can win. I like Thurman to stop Barrios rounds 9 or 10.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. He is a big kid. Maybe he was killing himself, and I think he's in a situation, even if he looks good, he's not going to lose too much stock in his value because he's there to make Thurman look good. So I think, I'm not saying it's not going to be a great, has the potential to be a fun fight. I just don't think we should be shelling out $75 for it.
Also on this card, featherweight, the return of Leo Santa Cruz, who, by the way, Mario, he has not fought since the last day of October of 2019.
Both guys coming off of
20,
losses.
I believe.
Both guys coming off of losses to Tank Davis.
Yes, he actually got thrown into space with that uppercut at the Alamo Dome, and I believe that was actually 2020. He takes on Keenan Carbajal, and a pretty good fight here on the undercard. Junior featherweights, the skilled Carlos Castro takes on Louis Neri. Moving on, also this Saturday on the Zone from Phoenix, Arizona, a late replacement opponent. Secretset Sorungbasai has come down with COVID, was not able to travel into the country. He was scheduled to fight Carlos Cuadras for the vacant WBC 150-pound title, but stepping in his place, Mario, I've talked about him in the past. In my view, if there's going to be an heir to the throne of the small little giants in boxing that are elite talents, Nonito Donaire, Chocolatito, Juan Francisco Estrada, Jesse Bam Rodriguez from the Robert Garcia camp, he was on the card and he said, I'll go up and wait.
Good for him.
You know what? I'm on the undercard. Let me take my chance at greatness.
We know he's been training. We know he's prepared, so good for him. You like to see fighters do that.
You know, when I watch him work out, and I was there during the summer, first time I got to see him in the gym, he's still only like 20, 21 years old. I believe he can win titles in 4 different weight classes. In 3-4 years, I expect him to be in the pound-for-pound list. I really do.
Okay.
But when I see him work the heavy bag, I was like kind of transfixed. It reminded me of my favorite scene in The Natural. Remember when Roy Hobbs, Wilford Brimley, the manager, wouldn't even let Roy Hobbs take BP because like, who's this old man? And
Wilford Brimley, by the way, was only like 50 years old.
They were the same age, basically.
Isn't that
it's
crazy?
Amazing. Yeah. So
he's
he
like
says,
our age.
Yeah. He goes, okay, Hobbs, see what you can do. And remember, Hobbs takes BP and he's just ripping every ball like 500 feet. Everyone's in awe. Not gonna lie to you, when I watch Bam Rodriguez and I see the way he torques his punches, the leverage, the technique, the fluidity, and how hard he can snap the bag, I just started taping going, this is one of the best young... And I've heard about him for 5 years. People said, Steve, when that kid turns pro...
Where's he from?
He's San Antonio. He's brothers with Joshua Franco.
Oh,
and Joshua Franco will tell you, look, I'm pretty good. My brother is elite.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just really believe once this kid gets started... and he becomes somebody. And Matchroom Boxing just signed him to a deal. I don't know if he's ever going to headline a show because, again, he's a 115-pounder. He's the type of guy that when he's on a card, you're not going to the bathroom, you're not going to the drink line when he's performing.
Must-see TV.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Big news last week. We have some clarity in the heavyweight division. Queensberry Promotions, headed by Frank Warren, in conjunction with Top Rank, they have won the WBC heavyweight purse bid with an offering of $41 million for the fight between Tyson Fury, the champion, and mandatory contender Dillian Whyte.
Yes.
Tyson Fury, Mario, will get right around $29.5 million. Dillian Whyte will get 7.3. Now, this is interesting. I didn't know the WBC did this. Under the WBC rules, 10% of that $41 million will be set aside, so that's $4.1 million. That goes to the winner.
I love that.
You like that idea?
I
know.
do. I love a little incentive. Look, I like the fighters getting guaranteed purses, but I do. You know what I would love to do? You know what I would love to see happen too? Let's say that's 4.2 that goes to the winner. Take it up to 5 if it's a knockout, or 5.2.
Well, here's the problem. Who puts in the other 900,000?
Well, I'm saying theoretically.
Yeah, right.
Let's assume, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying theoretically, if that was the structure, I don't have a problem with it. I think a little incentive is fun.
No, and I have a question. What do you think Mr. Ngannou's thinking
I was
right
just
now?
thinking about that.
What do you think he's thinking?
Well, listen, they've got a whole bag of issues over there regarding that, but he's having knee surgery because he tore his MCL in his last fight, but I'm thinking it's worth going over there and getting your butt kicked for that sort of dough. And he is sort of like got that Mike Tyson-esque aura about him over in the MMA. I'm thinking it could be a big event.
Taking a look at the fight itself, Fury Dillian Whyte looks like it's going to be in mid to late April, somewhere in Wales. Here's the other thing. We've got to be fair about this. We talk about pay-per-view dilution. I didn't know this till I read some comments from Bob Arum. This fight's going to be on pay-per-view in the States. Mario, I mean, we're talking about, okay, Tyson Fury, pretty well known to American fight fans. I'm not so sure Dillian Whyte is. I don't know how well this is going to go over.
Well, I don't know how well it's going to go over, but I could justify this a lot more than I can Thurman Barrios. Because he's the heavyweight champion. And it's a real fight. That's why. And it has stakes. Something the other one doesn't.
Okay. Well,
so this I can justify. I'm not saying it's great, but I could see it, and I'm not angry. And that I'd be happy to pay for.
Wow, that's interesting. That is interesting. If you take a look at Tyson Fury, he finally takes on a mandatory defense, and hopefully that'll lead naturally to the winner of Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua, who are now slated for the rematch. We might have a guest next week that can give further clarity to that situation.
So no step aside.
No, obviously the deal didn't go to the liking of Anthony Joshua. We'll get into that a little bit later on the Ask Mario segment. But I just hope now you have Fury Whyte, that winner, against Joshua Usyk 2. Let's make it simple.
Great.
Bottom line.
Yeah, if we can get all that done this year, beautiful.
Mario, March 5th, we talked about it a little bit last week. In fact, the news broke after we taped last week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller. San Diego will still have a fight March 5th. They're going to keep it classy.
Oh, okay.
Roman Gonzalez, he'll be fighting one of your favorite little fighters, the dynamic whirlwind Julio Cesar Martinez. Now, Mario, people are going to say, well, he's moving up in weight. Folks, it's 3 pounds. It's a glass of water. Here's the thing.
Hey, 3 pounds are a lot when you're a little guy.
It is. Okay. A jug of water. But Martinez, as I like to say, fights like he's double parked. He's the smaller guy, younger guy by about 8-9 years. I think the quickness and the tempo of Martinez, it's a real fight. I think Choke needs to be on guard early.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite analogies now, by the way. I like him in that fight. I'm not saying I'd necessarily like him to win, but I think he's a real dog there.
Yeah.
And I think it's we got lucky that he was able to jump in, and I think the fans are in for a treat. I think it's a good little fight.
Absolutely. Also taking a look at the fight review from this past weekend, Tulsa, Oklahoma, on ESPN. Quite frankly, a snoozer of a show, not one of the better offerings for Top Rank. The main event, junior lightweight Robeson Conceição, coming off his controversial loss to Oscar Valdez with a solid 10-round decision over Xavier Martinez. One thing to look out for here, young prospect by the name of Bruce Shoo Carrington. I thought he looked very good. Look out for that young man. He looks like a blue chip prospect. All right, we come back on the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller with Mario Lopez. We go to Ask Mario and Final Flurries. And we're back on the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller. We go to the Ask Mario portion of this fine program. Here's a question from Alexis Sanchez. Do you agree with the great Tim Bradley on yesterday's ESPN broadcast saying that Anthony Joshua is a bad businessman for not taking the step aside $15 million? I tend to agree with him more than Ward, but I was on Ward's side this time. It's not about money. He's made plenty. So in other words, this guy's saying, what about legacy?
No, hold on. Yeah, listen. Tim agrees with me. That's exactly what I think. You never pass up guaranteed money. Tomorrow's never promised. $15 million for doing nothing? Ask Ngannou how he feels about that. You mentioned him earlier. Of course, I don't think it would have hurt his standing at all. As a matter of fact, a little extra time might even benefit him. Look, he's not struggling by all means, but to do nothing, 15 million, Kim, come on, you'd be foolish not to.
This reminds me of when athletes sign new free agent deals, like 10 years, 58 million, or now 175 million, and they always say, really wasn't about the money, and you're like, buddy, it's always about the money. You are a professional athlete.
Of course,
this is a vocation, not an avocation. I think what the fans have an issue is that Anthony Joshua has become such a business. He's already banked hundreds of millions that they want him to be more of a gladiator more than a bookkeeper. I kind of understand it.
Well, I understand that, but you asked me the question if you were him, and I think if you asked any fan if they were in those shoes, they'd be lying if they said they didn't.
So if you took that step aside fee, would you then cough up $75 for Thurman Barrios this week?
No, just off the principle. It's a principle.
It's that principle.
I'm a pray that you learn about principle one day and you get some
doubt it. Here's one from
ethics at some point in your life.
Here's one from Jose Diaz. With the heavyweight division having sort of a shuffle to find a top dog, what does Andy Ruiz have to do to get noticed, as he has been wayside the past? How about fight?
Well, that's exactly. It's funny because I'm really shocked that he hasn't been busier than he has, considering he's right in the mix to get these big paydays. Should he just have one good showing, he could just be right in that mix. So bless you, he was looking pretty solid in camp last time. Was there an injury? Was there some dispute contractually? What was the last thing you've heard?
Nothing. Look, he fought last May against Chris Arreola.
Right.
Entertaining fight. Let's go back to that magical night at the Garden. He upsets Anthony Joshua.
One of the best upsets ever.
All right, that was 2019, correct? So they have the rematch in the desert in December of that year. So from that one magical year, that 2-fight set with Joshua, he's fought one time in 2 years. I know it's easy to blame his management, Al Heyman, PBC. Isn't some of this on him?
Well, okay. How much money are you making those 2 fights?
A lot.
Well, that's the problem. You're not. Again, when you're making that
how
much.
Okay. Old line from Patrick Ewing from the NBA lockout, and they explained, well, how come so many of you guys are having problems? Patrick Ewing said infamously, well, we make a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money.
Exactly.
You know he has spent money.
Absolutely. Do I think he's invested like in all the proper right ways? I don't know that answer, but look, I think he's a guy that's living comfortable, and it's hard to get kind of motivated. But selfishly, of course, I would love to see him.
You think that Fashion Nova money's rolling in still,
bro? Bro, I mean, he loves to get ink, so that costs after a while. But he's right in the mix to really one good showing, and he's right back in that title mix for another big fight.
Mario, I don't even remember the last time he posted, or there's been any footage, and Chino is very close to that camp. When was the last time he was at Reynoso's?
I know. It's frustrating. And it doesn't strike me as the guy that's just kind of living in the gym in the offseason.
Doesn't strike you as. Okay, that's a kind way of
Trying
putting
to be nice.
Yeah, here's one from Mr. Very Feel, our boy Sanch. Ask that girl dad, Mr. Mario Lopez Viva, which fight is he attending? Because they're both going to take place on April 30th. Taylor Serrano, the women's fight, or Valdez Stevenson?
With all due respect to the ladies, I might be at the Valdez Stevenson one.
So will I. I think it's a better fight. I know people are saying it's historic, blah, blah, blah. You're right. I don't care if it's historic. I believe Valdez Stevenson.
What's the location on both of them?
One of them will be at the Madison Square Garden, the ladies. And I believe that Valdez Stevenson, what I'm being told, will be at the MGM Grand.
Well, it's geographically more convenient, too.
Right, and I'd rather watch Valdez Stevenson, with all due respect to the ladies. I know some people disagree and think I have a duty to be at the other fight. I don't really agree.
Yeah, you do have a duty.
Yeah, to be at the MGM Grand. By the way, for a couple of years now, me and my friends from Montebello High School, we keep up with each other's lives on Facebook, stuff, great relationships. We've been trying to get to a fight where we all can meet and kind of make, not a reunion, but a get-together of Oilers. Now, this is a funny part. Remember Waterworld 2018, Scott Quigg, Oscar Valdez? We had a bunch of us that were going to go. The problem was it rained all day, and everyone said, we'll take literally a rain check.
Right. No
one showed up except for me, you, and I think Jim Boone, right?
That's right. We were soaked out there.
So as this fight was announced, and I got confirmation that, Steve, it looks like it's going to go through, I put up a Facebook post saying, hey, all my fellow Montebello Oilers from the Harvard of East LA, the Oracle of Finer Education, how about this fight for our get-together? And the response is unbelievable. MGM's going to be Montebello GM Grand on that night. Orale. 323 is going to be very strong that night. So I'm kind of obligated to be over there. Here's one from Jordan Wallenberg. Do we get an undisputed heavyweight champ in 2020? 2-2.
Well, like we just said, if things go according to plan, Joshua ends up fighting Usyk, and the winner fights the winner of Fury and Dillian Whyte.
Why not? There should be no excuse.
There should be no, barring injury, no excuse.
Right. I've given up on any of these guys fighting 3 times a year, 4 times. No, just make the fights that matter now.
Exactly.
Okay. Moving on to Final Flurries. Mario, this is about last week, but we couldn't get to it. I have to be honest, as a media member, I am alarmed and almost angered and embarrassed by the hypocrisy of the Baseball Writers Association for the exclusion of the great Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens making the Hall, not getting encased in Cooperstown, living in immortality. Meanwhile, David Ortiz, fine player, who I have no problems with, who was also listed in the Mitchell report, and there were a lot of suspicions.
He actually tested positive.
Gets in.
Yeah.
Huh.
How are you going to have the best players of their generation, respectively, pitcher and all-around player, really, in Barry Bonds? Some might say ever, not just of their generation.
Post Babe Ruth, he makes a strong argument. Barry
Whenever
Lamar Bonds.
you get walked with bases loaded,
intentionally.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No. Look, you've always had an era, whether it was greenies or blow or some sort
speed.
of speed, some sort of performance enhancement substance. Right, has always been involved through time. So what are you gonna comb through the archives and through history? Someone's always going to have a little something. I think it's different, I think, with a Pete Rose, because if you're betting on games, that's different. Does that make sense? Even though I do...
I'd still have Pete in there. I just wouldn't allow him to be a part of baseball. I would still have Peter Edward Rose in Cooperstown. I wouldn't let him manage. I wouldn't let him be a part of management.
I just wish...
I'd put him in there, though.
Yeah, I kind of struggle with that. I think I want to say yes, but do you understand the difference?
But he did break that rule knowingly.
You can't break, and we just have to take his word that he didn't bet against his team. That's the thing. That's the thing. When you start betting on if you would have bet on football this time, but when he's betting on baseball and his team's involved, you can't have that. Can't do that. He said, I always bet him to win. Doesn't matter. Like, really? You always bet him to win? We don't know. Now we're just taking his word. That's different to me. Now, that's different. But you still, it had nothing to do with his, like, he could have rigged that. But when you got to go out there and still perform, it is hypocritical. And I honestly think had Barry been a little friendlier with the media, it probably would have worked out a little different.
That's the issue.
Him and Roger, a little salty with the media. And so I think it comes back and haunts you. Unfortunately, but do I think they deserve to be in there? Absolutely, of course.
I don't understand this. If you actually take away Barry Bonds and you say, okay, starting with 1999 or 2000, he was juiced up, I'd say, okay. If you actually cut that career out and you go from
Pittsburgh,
from 86 all the way to about 98, he still won like 3 MVPs.
No, I know.
You know, I read a stat. Do you know that he's the only player to have 500 home runs and 500 steals? But you go beyond that. You know that he's the only 400 guy?
Wow.
That's how far. And he also won like 8 or 9 Gold Gloves.
Unbelievable.
And look, he didn't.
My guy only had like 3 pitches to hit a game. They never pitched to him
in a series.
In a series?
Yes.
They never gave him, and he still put up the numbers.
I mean,
unbelievable.
As someone that played outfield most of my life, he didn't have a great arm. Him and Tony Gwynn are the 2 best I've ever seen in outfielders. The 18 hopper is the toughest thing when you know you got to throw to a base because you're thinking, I got to charge the ball, and I got to crow hop, and I got to throw, but if the ball goes under my glove,
that's it.
It's a home run basically, right? They did it like it was highlight.
I know.
And his release, and one thing about Bonds, how smart he was, never threw to the wrong base.
Never. And he was the first guy I saw that when he knew it was a home run, didn't flinch.
Right, didn't flinch.
Because he just knew that ball's out of there.
One of the last players ever to choke up on the bat.
Yeah.
Like, because most guys don't. And he
crowd that base, but his swing was so compact and tight.
He had the
Iron
Mike Steele.
No, but he had such a nice, compact, pretty swing.
But you're right. He was a jerk to the media. Teammates didn't like him. But this is not Mr. Congeniality we're voting on here.
Exactly. Same with Curt Schilling, too. Curt Schilling was the best pitcher outside of pitch. But you're telling me Curt Schilling doesn't deserve to be in the Hall?
I'd vote him in. But the other part is with the media.
Yeah, that is politics on his side. That's awful.
I would ask these guys, you don't think we knew that there's an asterisk to a lot of these numbers? I'd put Sammy Sosa in. The hypocrisy of these guys at the sanctity of the game. look, I'm not a big a baseball fan as you are now, but I remember how dead baseball was post '94 when they ended the season. Tony Gwynn was batting .394.
Embraced him then.
That was going to be me and Tony's year to hit 400. I was with them, okay? And I don't for a couple years.
Greatest natural baseball player.
Right. And so now, going into '97, the game was really struggling. Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa may have saved baseball. You're telling me you're going to punish him for that?
I know.
And I've always said, I've never understood. I talked to a good friend of yours, Adrian Gonzalez, and we had a discussion. I said, Adrian, if you knew a teammate was juiced up, but he's hitting 80 home runs a year, making you more money, wouldn't you actually congratulate him? Like, hey, you had a way to take one for the team. Your body may betray you one day. You may lose your liver, but man, good job. There's a hypocrisy to that other players are horrified. The other thing is, a lot of pitchers were doing it.
Of course.
I don't want to hear that Barry Bonds was beating up on olive oil, throwing 85-mile-per-hour knuckleballs. That's just not true.
Of course not.
So anyway, I just think, let us know. We know there's an asterisk.
You're telling me Big Papi, and I like him too, deserves to be in there, but not Barry Bonds?
Right.
Come on, man.
And there's other players with strong rumors and suspicions and innuendos that are in there, but they were nice guys to the media.
I know.
Very unfair.
Alex Rodriguez deserved to be in there?
Yes.
Absolutely.
The most physically gifted shortstop I've ever seen.
Yep. Dude, since he came out of high school, he's
yes.
a stud.
Westminster High School in South Florida. Mario, NFL playoffs. I will say this. After the Super Wildcard weekend, best set of NFL football games I've ever seen consecutively. Unbelievable how good this playoffs was.
Really was. Really, really was. Entertaining, super close games, overtimes in some, tied at the end of the games. Comebacks. I'm so glad the Chiefs lost. Being a Chargers fan, I'm so glad the Chiefs lost. When Burrow came out looking like Miklo from Blood In, Blood Out, I was like, oh, that's all she wrote. That was nice. I couldn't believe that line, how bad it is, and the fact that he was still able to find a way and get the W. But the defense on the Bengals, man, they stepped it up. They were the real MVPs there. In San Francisco seemed to have that in the bag, man. The one guy who missed the interception, I really thought that was going to be Tart. I thought, how did he sleep that night?
No,
huh?
I mean, look, he had a great tweet where he said, hey, this is on me. I give him a lot of credit for that.
No, of course.
But I want to question Shanahan. Your offense has to be based around two guys. Debo
and Kittle.
They were non-existent in the fourth quarter. Also, on that drive, they were running 17-10. They had a couple first downs. I'm thinking, ooh, nice drive. They had 2nd and 1 from inside Rams territory.
Mm-hmm.
The next 3 plays, Shanahan's running an inside give to the fullback. Juszczyk gets stuffed. Then he runs a play where Trent Williams is lined up as I'm like, bro, keep it simple. Give it to Debo and reset the down.
Because Jimmy G looked overwhelmed in there. He was not ready for prime time in that last drive.
He looked petrified those last 2 drives. And in his defense, he had a bad thumb and a shoulder, but he played himself out of San Francisco, bottom line. Early on, I get the sense, Rams home game, Rams momentum, Rams City, I think they have a better natural team. They should beat the Bengals.
Well, between Aaron Donald and Von Miller, they should eat up that O-line. But, dude, I'm Joe Burrow and them.
You never know.
You never know. You never know.
Oh, Mario, is Tom Brady retired?
That's what they say. Then he says he hasn't. I like that he's sort of stealing the limelight from all these teams right now. He hasn't come out with it. That'd be a major troll, right? If he says, I'm not retired.
But here's the issue with Brady that I think is amazing, that his stats in the 40s are actually better than in the 20s. You could actually make a case. He has 4 or 5 good years left. Why quit now?
Well, here's the thing. It's when you play such a physical game.
Right, one hit.
One hit could be that. So then you start you start weighing the risk versus reward. Yeah, there's always, you know me, you don't like to leave any money on the table. But at some point, he's married, he's got family. At some point.
Kids growing up.
Yeah, at some point. Like, I remember I talked to Peyton Manning one time. I didn't know homeboy had like 3 neck surgeries.
Yeah, 3.
And I'm like, wait, what? He said surgeries on his neck, on his spine. Bro, that's serious. Forget that. And I'm like, who wants to deal with that? So if I'm Tom Brady, I'm tapping out. Just for the risk of not having to. One hit, like you said, you get one bad hit on your blind side, that's it.
The most amazing stat, if let's say Brady walks away from this game, it's not even the 7 Super Bowls that he's won. The fact that in his 20-year run, he went to 10 Super Bowls.
It's crazy.
That means every other year, Tom Brady is there. And look, Dan Marino went to a Super Bowl his 2nd year, never went back.
Isn't that crazy?
Russell Wilson, we thought, he's going to have a lot of Super Bowls. Never been back in 7 years. Went to 2. Mm-hmm. That's why with Mahomes, now you're thinking, wait a minute, we can't take this for granted. Every year you don't make it, it's a wasted year. He never wasted a lot of years. That's the greatness of Tom Brady. Mario, I've been watching some stuff here on Showtime. I've always liked their shows. I saw the new version of Billions, post-Axe.
I didn't even know it came out.
I didn't either. Someone reminded me.
There's no press for it or anything.
Yeah, it's almost like, hey,
How are you
Billions
gonna have post-Axe?
I think I might axe it in a couple X. It's
I don't
just
even
not
know.
the same.
I'm very upset with you because you haven't even listened to me and started watching Ozark.
I need
I
to.
just finished this 4th season. It's excellent. You gotta watch it.
I'm
man.
gonna start
What is the
looking.
matter with you? You gotta start watching that. And you know what else? So wait, I finished Succession. Do you watch Succession?
I love Succession.
Succession.
Of course.
You're gonna love Ozark. Finish Succession. Finish Ozark. Finish last season Narcos. Have you heard of a show called 000?
No.
I've been hearing great things about that. So I haven't seen it yet, but I've been hearing good things. I might have to check that out.
All right, another show that I binged last week. I thought it was excellent, and I got terrible news. American Rust on Showtime.
What is that about again?
American Rust is about Buell, Pennsylvania, a steel mill city that's gone to hell. And there was a murder case involving a former star football player and a young, an older sheriff played by Jeff Bridges, who's great.
Oh, wow. That's right. We heard about that. Oh, yeah, this sounds good.
And here's the thing. According to Tim, they left a cliffhanger on episode 9, and you can't wait to. I heard it's canceled.
That's cold as ice.
Like one of the steel mills.
Is it really?
And what the funny thing.
I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, the funny thing is, to me, being a Lakers fan, where I used to be, is that Jeff Bridges' character, his name is Del Harris.
Is it really? Del Harris? That's funny.
So every time I see him, I think of Nick Van Exel.
Clearly, the writer was a Lakers
right.
fan,
I think of Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, and Eldon Campbell and Vlade every time. It's really a well-done story. And one of the storylines, real pretty girl plays a half Mexican, half white ex-girlfriend of the football player accused of the crime. And there's a great backstory with that.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, man, this show's got some legs.
And it got canceled,
and it got canceled.
That's the worst.
So I hope it has a revival like Friday Night Lights. I don't know if you remember that show.
Of course.
But that show was actually canceled on NBC
And
after
it came back to DirecTV.
It came back to DirecTV, and I can honestly tell you, I watched every single
Just
episode.
do me a favor. Start getting into Ozark.
Okay, here's
I'm
the
sure our
problem.
listeners.
I tried to watch Ozark.
What do you mean you tried?
On the on-demand. It only starts at season 3, and I'm like,
No. You got to go. You don't have Netflix?
No.
What's the matter with you?
Not big on that.
What do you mean you're not big on that?
I think it's a flash in the pan. I don't know how long it's going to last.
Flash in the pan. It's been around for years.
I got to give him my, what do you call it? The account number? How does
Password?
Yeah, password, you cheap rat
I'm
bastard.
not sure.
Talking about me not wanting to pay. You have no excuse right there.
All right, but anyway, that's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller with Mario Lopez. On behalf of Senor Lopez, Smokin' Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Tino on the edits, this is Steve Kim saying goodbye, everybody.